And here they come. Welcome in, everyone.
Good morning. Good to
Good
see so many
afternoon,
people.
Europe.
Good afternoon. Good evening, good morning, good night, whatever that movie quote was. Well, we are very excited to be here for this Coach's Corner because we're really here in the midst of celebrating TFM's birthday. So we thought we would share that with you today. I wanted to just kind of go over a little bit about how we're going to do this. We have three of us here, Heather and Lisa and I. And so we are going to share, have a discussion, and we can't see you, but we can only see each other. So when it's time to engage with you more, we'll let you know. But for now, just sit back, listen, see if there are things that you want to learn from us, and we will go ahead and get started. So I thought it would be fun, Lisa and Heather, if we talked some today about why are we, before I do that, thank you so much. Someone already started this in the chat. Join us in the chat. Tell everyone, say hello, tell us where you're from. I just saw someone who posted in there. It is must be middle of the night for you. But go ahead and put your location in the chat. It's always fun to get to see where everyone is from. All right, back to the story here. So Heather and Lisa, I thought it would be fun if we could talk a little bit about why do we celebrate TFM? Because we've each been here for a while now, and this is a big birthday. And so, what has TFM been for us, and why are we celebrating it? Anybody can start.
Well, I'll go. I TFM, Dr. Fung, and then of course the three women in my life that changed my metabolic health were Coach Nadia, Coach Terry, and of course Megan Ramos. I mean, you guys literally changed my life in so many ways. My metabolic health. I mean, and then of course you gave me a job, and that led to so much personal satisfaction to be able to pass the word on, to spread hope, and to help people, to provide the education, the support that people need. It's just, and also building this community. I really, really feel from, just the depth of my soul that we are all walking each other home. Rumi's quote, we really are. And my clients and the community support me, I hope, as much as I support them. So that's why I'm, dancing in my chair. Happy birthday.
I
Oh
love
my
it.
goodness. Lisa, that is so right. That whole, spread the hope thing, that is exactly why I am here as well. Like many of the people that I work with, right? I focus on weight loss. And, I came to TFM because I was just desperate and at the end of my rope. I'm like, okay, not eating. Got it. That's what I'm willing to do at this point to try and get this freaking ball rolling. And it felt like a last resort. It felt like I had tried absolutely everything. And this last resort ended up being the miracle that I had been waiting for. And I don't use that term hyperbolically. I literally mean I prayed and prayed since I was a little girl to find a way to not have to be obese anymore, to not have to just constantly fret and be overwhelmed by my weight and how people judged me and how I saw myself. It wasn't a little thing that I was, dreaming for and wishing for. It was like the biggest thing. It was the central preoccupation of my life. I got decades of journals to prove it, okay? I got the receipts on this one, people. And so when I came to TFM, it was an act of desperation. I didn't want to be a part of a community. I had joined like the big commercial community that we were all at, and I, sat around listening to like sugar-free Jello recipes and how to eat low-fat cheese. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want any part of that. And so I joined the community with like reluctantly waiting for Terri to be available to be my coach. And I was like, oh, wait. this is different. This isn't the same. And I started coming to these live meetings and instead of, being surrounded by people where I'm like, I'm not eating like that, I was surrounded by people with the same exact problems as me, who were going through the same struggles, who also felt like, that late night eating in front of the TV where you were ashamed afterwards, like the same exact like struggles and problems. And I was like, oh my God, these are my people. People that also, believed in, cutting the carbs for health and that it wasn't like the end of the world to do that. And that, you could take a pause from eating and it wasn't an eating disorder, right? It was a healthy intervention to tap into body fat for fuel. And so that feeling like I'm not alone, this isn't just me, this is a large group of people who understand. That was the game changer. And so then when I actually lost the weight for the first time in my life and got to goal and my miracle came true, I tried to go back into my regular life as a primary care provider and just, great, I did it. And, tried with my clients and it just, the medical model is not set up for that. And so I was like, no, like you, Lisa, I told Terry I wanted to put on a sandwich board and a bullhorn and just stand on the street corner and spread the good news of TFM. There is another way. You do not have to stay obese. You do not have to cut calories and eat low fat cheese. Like there's another way. And Terry's like, maybe rather than the bullhorn, you could just come coach. Right? Maybe that would be a way. You could just come in with us. We'll put you in front of our audience and you can spread the good word that way. And like you, Lisa, like I thought that I knew what I needed to know. And so I was just ready to tell everybody. But oh my gosh, now working as a coach from my clients, I am just understanding so much more and feelings that I had about way of eating and how like I was like, this is what you got. No, that it really is N equals one. We really do need to listen and meet people where they are. And we each need a curated approach for ourselves, which is why weight loss is so hard because, we want this rubber stamped. What should I do? Depends. And that is the piece that really seems to be like, it's a little magical. We really are little special snowflakes that need to be, use what we have where we are. And that's part of the magic too. So, oh, the long story. I've got lots of emotions about this, people. Life changing is the best way that I can describe it. And like you, Lisa, like Coach Terry is a personal hero of mine. So, having somebody guide you through this journey permanently puts him in that place of, wow, look what you did for me. So I love TFM.
Wow, that's awesome, and thank you. So, I'm gonna be the trifecta here and say that I too feel like TFM saved my life. Not just changed it, but saved it. I was really unhealthy, and I remember I got to meet Dr. Fung at a conference, and I brought my obesity code book with me, and I was sitting in the audience, just hoping I would get to meet him, and I did. And like for the longest time, I would keep looking at what he wrote in my book because I'm like, oh my gosh. And I told him, you saved my life. I was diabetic and, really struggling and, obesity issues since probably about kindergarten. And so I too, like both of you have kind of said, I didn't believe there was something that would ever make it better. And I felt like it was me. I was the one that just couldn't make it work. And I was in a family of, my parents were very thin. They also smoked from the age of 13, but they were very thin, and all of my friends were thin. And I just thought it was me. I just thought there was something wrong with me. And, I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't disciplined enough. Um, and then, as someone already wrote in the chat, when I read Dr. Fung's, message, it's not your fault. And I started to really understand there was a reason why I was struggling. And little did I know there were so many more reasons why I was struggling. And my background as a psychologist, I think, has made my experience here so full because, as you said, Heather, just that idea of, I thought I just knew the answers. Like, you do this, you do that, boom, it's done. And again, I have had to dig deep and think about and understand why we do what we do. We're not broken, we're not flawed, we're not weak. We're up against some really big ogres when it comes to the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry as far as what that does for our health and things. So, getting to be a part of something that is making a difference in that. Every time I go to a meeting and I see 70 people there, when we do these right now, 243 people, I just think, oh my gosh, the message is getting out there. People are becoming empowered, and I get to be a part of that. So amazing. So for me, TFM really didn't exist as it is now when I first joined. It was only coaching. I was very fortunate to get to work with Megan Ramos as a coach, but it was only coaching. There was no community. And then when I first came on in 2019 is when we started having a larger community impact. We started having meetings. Lisa, I remember you in that time. So I've gotten to also see kind of some real transformation for TFM, not just all of us, but some real transformation for what TFM is. And I'm so grateful to be a part of that. And I feel empowered, and I love getting to, as you said, Lisa, bring that hope to people. So those are my words about TFM, and it has changed my life in more ways than I can even imagine. So I wonder, each of us did something as part of our TFM journey in that we did coaching. And I'm curious, Heather, you've maybe already addressed some of this, but what made you decide to do coaching? For me, I can say it was the only option. And I knew I needed help. I knew I wasn't figuring this out on my own. I knew I was smart. I knew I knew information, but I knew I needed some guidance. And I knew for me, based on my own reality, I needed accountability. I'll tell you, there's nothing like accountability with Megan Ramos. I'm like, I am not going to show up to that meeting and not have done what she asked me to do. So when Megan first said to me, well, Terri, I'd like you to do 3 42-hour fasts. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. So for me, again, there was no other option other than coaching to be a part of this. But it was, I needed that accountability and I needed guidance because it wasn't just, black and white, do this, don't do this. So I'm curious for each of you to share a little bit more about that decision to take that next step, because you both have been in it while there's been a community first and then did coaching.
I'll go first again. I really felt that I needed a little more in depth on the behavioral aspects of it all. And Terri really helped me with that, especially on the habit. And if you want a book resource, and I'm a big book person, and so Terri had the books, and I think we eventually put a list of Terri's recommended books, and a lot of it's very hard for me. I do book club, so I try to get a sprinkling of from all the different coaches, but I predominantly do Terri's because so much of it, that's what I need to work on. I've got to do the work. I knew, just like you and just like several people have said in the chat, when I heard Dr. Fung say, it's not your fault, I started crying. I could dive into the science part of it, but I also had to dive into the habit part of it. And Terri was always so funny because she would always say that, the metabolic part was not her forte, but maybe we would need to tweak it. But she got what I needed to do every single time. The first adjustment that I need to make worked. And so that always cracked me up when she would, do that little preface. Well, this may not be it, but let's try this. And so all those fasting protocol changes that were specific to me were very, very helpful. I knew that I just needed a little more individualized, undivided attention type of thing, as opposed to speaking up in the large groups. So that's why I went for it. I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna jump all in.
Yeah, for me, and I still hear you, Lisa. For me, the reason that I hired a coach is I actually came to TFM looking for a coach, right? So that was specifically why I sought it out. I was working on, well, I was finishing up my doctorate in nursing, and part of what I was studying obesity, right? I've been my entire nursing career, every single project, every single group presentation, my topic of choice was obesity. I have been digging into this topic. Like I said, it's been in my mind since I was a little girl, and that it was a problem I was trying to solve for myself, and eventually, hopefully, for my patients, right? But yeah, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I was looking for an answer for myself, and hopefully, with the idea, if I could figure it out for me, I could help others, and that's ends up being exactly what happened. So, as I was studying obesity and looking at, the treatment options, first of all, they're a little abysmal out there. I don't know if you've all noticed, but the options for obesity treatment in mainstream medicine, like the efficacy or like how successful they are, is pretty low. But what, the kind of the through line that they found when they, looked at all the evidence and compiled it together is that the people that did best had what's called intensive lifestyle intervention, which is basically, somebody that they were speaking to on a regular basis to keep their head in the game. Because just like Lisa was talking about, it makes real good sense that Terry's such a good coach. This is mostly a head game. This is not, meal plans and how to fast. Like that part's super easy, y'all. How to do this consistently amidst a difficult food environment and a whole lot of people with a whole lot of opinions. That, my friends, is the tricky part. And you throw in some emotional eating and some addiction piece and forget it. It is a big problem that we're trying to solve. And so once I understood that and I kept seeing it in the evidence, I was like, well, Heather, you can continue to ignore the gold standard evidence that intensive lifestyle intervention is the most effective strategy for people to successfully lose weight because you already know it all and you don't need help. Or you can go ahead and put your ego aside and actually maybe have a chance of getting this thing licked and actually following what the evidence says and getting help. And, after trying on my own to fast for 2 years and having initial success and then having the weight start to come back, I'm like, girl, you need some help. Get some help. Do you want your ego or do you want your health? Which one's more important to you? And my health, it turns out, was more important. And I can't, it's undescribable, almost instantly of having that accountability and support, not just from Terry, from the community. I started kicking it in. I was consistent with my fasting and I stayed like clockwork for the 6 months it took me to get down to my healthy body weight. I didn't falter. And it's because I had the accountability. I know that that's why, because I tried it for 2 years on my own without that. And I had all the same information, all the same fat, all the same everything. The only thing I didn't have was the coach in the community. So I know that like that's all the evidence I need that's what made the difference, and so that's why I did it. And as Terry, but I don't know if others know. When I came in, I was also terrified of maintenance of being able to sustain the weight loss because y'all losing the weight's the first part, keeping it off is the second part. And so I also knew that most people gain the weight back that they lose, even a significant amount. They gain it back within 2 to 5 years if they don't have a system in place for maintenance. So after I got down to goal weight in 6 months, I was like, you ain't done with me, Terry. We got to make sure I don't put it back on. So I re-upped. I did another 6 months of coaching and I never left the community. I actually had to ask them to turn off my membership payment when I became a coach. I'm like, now that I'm running these meetings, do I still got to pay for it? Right? Like I was going nowhere, right? Like I knew that I needed to keep my head in this game permanently because, I'm this close to going right back to obese if I take my foot off the gas. And that's just part of this process and it sucks. And that's just the way it is. So That's why I ended up in
It's
coach.
funny because I was talking to my trainer, my weightlifting trainer one day, and I was telling him I'm in a thread with all coaches. And some are from TFM and some are not. They're from other, but they're all coaches. And I said, it takes 4 coaches to keep me in line. And he got a big grin on his face and he said, I'm one of your accountability buddies. And I went, oh my God, it takes 5 coaches to keep me in line. Because he was not in the tech. I hadn't told him it was a text thread. But it's so true. You know, I need accountability.
Mhm.
So I grab it where I can, and you can pick different people for different things. You can have an accountability buddy for walking. I walk with my friend to walk and talk on the phone with my friend every Sunday morning. You can have, somebody else that you check in with before you go to the grocery store or after. You don't have to pick all just one person to do one thing with.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that point, Lisa, as soon as I saw how effective coaching was for this, I was like, what else can I get a coach for? What else I got around here to fix? I need more coaching. And sure enough, I have invested in other programs because, and Terry talks about this a lot. And, I'm not sure if people hear her really get it. Like, if you wanted to learn the guitar, like, do you think it's going to be faster by yourself watching YouTube videos or if you have an instructor? Like, there's just no contest. Like having somebody curate what you need to know and see where you are and what you're doing and use their experience and knowledge of other people that they've seen do it and be like, ooh, I know exactly where you are. This is what you need right now. Like gold. That's gold. So coaching is amazing. As a coachee, I try to be an amazing coach. I can't. I do my best, man. But receiving coaching is really it's a powerful thing.
You are an amazing coach. And I didn't say this before, but part of my celebration of TFM is being here with the two of you, the paying it forward, the getting to see that my work with you helps you. You now use that to help others. I just feel like like I don't have kids. So this is me. This is my legacy. This is me passing along something about from me, I guess. And so that's always really rewarding to me as well. I did want to pause just for a second and let you know I'm sorry that I keep moving. I'm not at my home. I wish I lived here. I'm dog sitting and I'm navigating 2 dogs that don't know each other, and they're a little bit territorial right now. One is really enjoying this meeting. She is the one I'm dog sitting for. So I apologize that I've been bobbing around here. I'm just trying to hold the computer and navigate the dogs. So. All right. Well, I think we have shared our celebrations, and this is something I think we could go on. We could do a weekend long webinar on how we celebrate TFM. But I did want to open it up and get to hear from some of you. And those of you who are already a member of TFM, already coaching, I'd love to hear something from you about one thing that you celebrate about TFM. And those of you who are not yet a member of TFM and are just kind of poking around and seeing, just checking in to see if you maybe have some questions for us. I do want to put a little bit of a parameter on these questions in that I know for sure we won't get through all of them. So please don't feel slighted if we don't get to answer your question. And we're going to answer them pretty generally. So if you write down, and then in 3rd grade this happened, and then 5th grade this, and everything, we're only going to handle the really kind of general piece of it. So pop in a real quick question, like what's the trick to get past a 24-hour versus how many times have you tried and what have you tried and everything. Just ask the thing that we can address. So where to do that? In the Q&A box. If you look in your toolbar on your Zoom screen, you're going to see a Q&A box. And when you click on it, you'll type in. Part of the reason we do this is that we don't identify anyone's names. We'll read the question and answer your questions. Okay? All right. So let's see. some of these also I will answer you separately. Uh, Actually, someone just did. Um, da, 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 Um, Real quick question about the weight loss class. We have workshops and master classes coming up, and Heather, you have one in July. You want to mention something about that?
Yes, yes. I'm doing a weight loss workshop starts July 15th. It is 3 days. So it is that Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And the idea of the workshop is that it's like it's meant to be action oriented, right? So it's meant to be not, me lecture about weight loss, but more, right, me kind of getting into your head a little bit and giving you some activities to try and dig into what are your blocks, what are your obstacles, what's standing in the way, and what kind of activities can you do on a regular basis to keep your head in this game a little bit better. I know that not everyone can afford coaching. We are, as we sit in front of you folks, we are a premium product, right? And that there's no ambiguity there. We understand that that is the case. So if maybe, you need something, kind of a little bit intensive to get you going, and then perhaps being a part of the community is, having that accountability piece for you, that, that's an avenue, right? So if you kind of want my download and what I think is an important set of habits and set of ways of thinking and for weight loss, that's what I'm going to be covering. And then a good one-two punch would be to be a community member and have that accountability. And sometimes, when it comes to accountability, people, what people really want is for us to drive to their door and knock on it and be like, "What are you eating in there? Are you fasting? Are you doing the thing?" Accountability is really, it's a two-way street. It requires you to show up, whether it be to community meetings, whether it be to your coaching meetings. People need to kind of schedule those meetings, get seen regularly, show up and say, "I'm struggling." Sometimes people, when they're struggling, they're like, "I don't want to go see my coach. I want to wait until it's better and tell her that I'm doing a good job." That ain't it, right? So that regular FaceTime is a really critical part of accountability. And, it's not like any of us are magic. We don't, wave magic wands and, kind of hypnotize you. It really is, that mutual understanding that you're showing up and doing the work, and we're here to support you and try and troubleshoot issues that you might have. So I just wanted to kind of throw that piece in there, that it is, it's not like you hire a coach, "Oof, done. Now I'm just going to sit back and wait for the weight loss." Like, oh, nope, right? You got to show up, you got to do the work, make the choices. And, we can teach you all day long what those choices are and how to stay consistent, how to build your willpower, those things that I'm going to be talking about at that workshop. But ultimately, it's on you. The work is on you.
How to do the work. Nobody's going to get out of that, I don't think.
Nope. And I remember the first time I spoke with Megan Ramos in a community meeting, and I was like, "I just want to thank you so much for all that you've done." And she's like, "I didn't do it. You did it." It's true.
Absolutely. All right, there's a question. Does TFM work with TOFIs? So TOFI stands for thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And people who fast for cancer prevention or helping during chemo. Yeah, we have a lot of people who come to us who are not here for losing weight. Obviously, a lot of people come to us to lose weight, but many people don't have excessive weight to lose, but they have health conditions that they want to work on. And they want to do that without losing more weight. And so there are ways to do that. And so, yes, we have specific protocols to help support people during chemotherapy, after surgery, different things like that. Um, Lisa is a great example. Whenever someone comes in with, I'm working on this with my doctor and I've been diagnosed with this and this is really complicated. I'm like, you need to talk with Coach Lisa. You need someone who can really see the big picture with these health things to help you with whatever, whether it's resolving the fatty liver or bringing the type 2 diabetes out of that range and things. So We do kind of a full range. We work with people who are really just focusing on weight loss, people who are working on health conditions, people who are going through, serious medical treatments and things. Um, the really beautiful thing I think about it is technically we do the same stuff. We just adjust how we do it based on what your goals are and what your needs are. Eating the right foods and doing some fasting, that's the answer for all of us. How we do that is what varies. So, yes, we work with people who are not here for weight loss. We work with people who are here for resolving and supporting medical treatments and medical conditions.
It's so rewarding. I have several people who are fighting cancer, and it's so rewarding. And it gets to the point where it's fun because they go back in for an X-ray or something like that, and the X-ray tech is confused because it's not there anymore. And then they go and get the radiologist, and the radiologist said, "Oh, you've got the wrong film. You need to take it again." And then it's the same result. And then they go get a second radiologist. And meanwhile, my client is saying, "I'm fasting." You know how you're in another room? "I'm fasting." They're not listening to them. They're like, "No, this can't possibly be that this has diminished or gone away or what." And it's just they just keep yelling at, "I'm fasting," because they don't, so it's kind of like, but it's very, very, as a coach, it's very, very heartwarming that they are just so happy that they can fight the big C. I mean, I hate the big C. And it's great. Gives them hope. Here we are back at hope again.
Absolutely. And an opportunity to feel better while going through such a serious, you know, uh, thing that's so taxing on the body, to have your body feel more supported. Very good. Let's see. Someone asked, does daily medication, multivitamin supplements, things affect or stop the fast? Is there a cutoff that is allowed, like 100 calories or less, to stay in fasting? Ooh, interesting question.
I'll
Ladies,
take it.
what do you
I'll
think?
talk about that, right?
Ooh.
So, interestingly, one of my pet peeves, and I think maybe Megan's, I'm not sure, is this idea that there is such a thing as a clean and a dirty fast, right? That there is some crystal clear, perfect, pure fast, and if you don't do it that way, then you're not fasting properly. And whilst we do all forms of, work on all forms of things at the fasting method. I do focus on weight loss specifically. Those are the clients that I prefer to work with. And when I'm working with clients, what I'm looking for is results. In my experience, that's what they're looking for too, right? And so, what's more important to have, a fast with not nay a fasting aid, right? Only water and salt, or to consistently, get to your goal, right? What is the most important thing here? And most of the people, there are no badges awarded for water only fasting. So what people are really looking for is the transformation, is the weight loss. And so if that requires you to use a fasting aid, so as to take medications or so as to, get through the witching hour at 24 or at lunchtime or wherever your witching hour is, then please use it. Please use that as a bridge to get you to the intense fasting that we get to beyond 24. And so, I would say to anyone who listens that, a fasting aid isn't a crutch. It isn't like, something that you don't want to use as soon as possible. It's something that bridges you into the ability for longer fasts, which is where a lot of the most impact happens, from a health perspective and from a weight loss perspective, right? That intensity that comes after 24 is that's where the magic is. And so if some bone broth or, a couple pieces of bacon or an olive or whatever is what needs you, to get to take your medication or to just bridge the hunger to get to a longer fast, then do it. Now, I know people are concerned with autophagy. You brought up the big C, Lisa. And so, there is some ambiguity as to, kind of how long you're kicked out of autophagy, so to speak, if you have caloric intake. And keep in mind, like most things, there's some spectrums there, right? So right? So we might come out and come back in. Like the body is more fluid. It's not as black and white as that, I don't think. But ultimately, right, you do what you can do, and get as much benefit as you can based on, whether or not you need those aids to keep you going. That's how I see it.
Good. All right, there are so many questions. I'm trying to kind of sort through and find some that we can talk about here. Oh, I was going to add something else with that topic of the fasting aids. I think you're going to find pretty soon, early July, we are going to be talking about a topic that really fits with that as far as fast mimicking approaches. And so keep watching, keep following, and we are going to talk more and more about how to navigate this if you aren't in a space where you are ready to do a fast without any food or any of those maybe more significant fasting aids. But um, that's coming up. July 7th starts our first week challenge related to that. So just wanted to add that.
Coming up with our own
Heather.
bone broth too. So
Mhm, absolutely. Two questions about coaching that came up in the chat. Heather, do you recommend having a maintenance coach and why? And then the other one is how regularly should someone meet with a coach? And I'm going to ask that. I'll answer that part and then I'll let Heather go back to the other part. But generally, our coaching programs are for 6 months. And depending on whether you're doing individual or small group, it would kind of determine the frequency. But like, for example, in our small group coaching, it is every other week. So it's a bi-weekly kind of thing. I always let people know, though, there might be some times where you need a little extra support. So you might do a few weeks, in a row, and then you space them out a little bit more once you've got some really good momentum going. But generally, it's not locked in. You get to choose it, but you do have enough sessions in the small group package that you could do them every other week.
can I
Yeah.
jump in here just real quick?
Yeah.
I had a client. Remember when we used to have like they used to get like 24 sessions or something like the big packages, and she actually was with me for like a year and a half, so she would carry over because she didn't use them all. She came about every other week, and all of a sudden she started coming twice a week, and I was like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "I'm at my in-laws. They are pushing carbs constantly." And I'm like, oh, okay. So she was there for support and she knew she needed to check in twice a week.
Yeah, and to that point, right? So, the evidence I saw indicated that every 1 to 2 weeks is ideal for accountability coaching. And so, like you said, Terry, when I have clients that are just getting started, they're really shaky on the food, they're like kind of having those crash and burn moments still pretty regularly, then it's like, if you're struggling, every week is better. Period, right? Just, like waiting 2, 3 weeks, to get help is not really all that useful, because part of it is, it's just basically showing up in front of someone and saying, this is what I'm doing. Like, what should I do next? Or, this is what I'm doing. This is what I plan to do next. I want to tell somebody out loud so that I'm holding myself a little bit accountable, which is part of it too. Like I said, it's a two-way street. And so even, some people are even, they get benefit just by having someone who's willing to listen because their family's sick of it, right? Much like mine. I don't want to hear you talk about fasting anymore. I don't want to hear you talk about your food. Knock it off, right? I will listen to you talk about it. I am happy to hear you talk about it. And so I can think of some clients where it's like, oh, you're still struggling a little bit. Come see me sooner. Or, we're cranking up the fasting dial. Don't wait too long to see me, because I'll see people crank up the fasting dial, crash and burn, start binging, and then, every like they're back to where they started when they see me. I'm like, what happened? Like, right? Come see me sooner. Anyway, just a plug, right? In general, like, if you're struggling, that's when you need someone more, not less. And as far as maintenance coaching, a couple things. I do have a couple clients that hired me specifically for maintenance coaching who I did not work with during their weight loss, which is interesting. And so they had the same feeling I did, like, oh God, I have it. I don't want to lose it. Right. I used to have nightmares. I was going to gain all of the weight and I was going to wake up with all the weight again and have to start over. They were truly nightmares, y'all. And so, I get that piece. I think a good new option that we have is we have accountability coaching. So it's less like, because, Coach Lisa is a nurse, Coach Terry is a psychologist, and, I'm a nurse practitioner. So we're a little fancier, y'all. But we do have some coaches that are there for just straight up accountability. Someone, that will be there to say, hey, what's your plan? What are you going to do? Come back and talk to me. And did you do it? And maybe for maintenance, that, kind of little less intensity as far as, kind of what the coaches can do with you, it would be a good choice. Would be a good choice, right? So I would certainly work maintenance with the clients that I have. But if someone at this point comes to me with maintenance, I'm going to be like, who can I refer you to? Right? Because I really love the process of weight loss. And of course, I would never, kind of let go of a client that is in maintenance, right? Once you're with me as long as you want me. But if you're coming to me, I would say, hey, if you're already in maintenance, like there are some other options where you're not going to have me kind of very hyper fixated on weight loss.
On this theme of coaching, and then I'm going to hop off of this for a different question, but someone just said, how do we know if coaching or just the community membership is right for us? I love this question. One, I think do an intake. If you really are questioning coaching, meet with the coach, get a chance to kind of talk with them about it. But the other bigger recommendation I make is, and maybe this speaks to my personality, take the lower risk option first, join the community, poke around and see. The other cool thing about once you're a member of the community, you get to know all of us as coaches. It helps you to know who do you want to do an intake with, because you've been to Heather's meetings, you've been to Jill's meetings, you've been to Lisa's meetings. You get to kind of sample working with all of us, so to speak, before you even make that decision. So I say if you're really not sure, my option would be join the low risk option first, get your feet in there and get going, and then get, connection with us so that you know what you want to do next. All right, let's see. So many good questions. This question is, how can I combine fasting while on diabetes medications? So need help navigating this path because I want to fast for weight loss, but I'm unsure how the meds will affect it. This is one of those great examples of why coaching is so helpful, because we can help you know there are a few medications where you would not fast over a kind of short fast. In order to get to some longer fasts, it would depend on what medications you're on. But the really cool thing is that for so many people, this question almost becomes moot, because as they start changing how they're eating, as they start doing time restricted eating, no snacking, no grazing, and they start bringing in a little bit of fasting, their need for medication starts to decrease. They start to come off of those medications. So, 9 months in, they're not anymore asking, well, how do I take this medication while fasting? But this is something we do, and we take that very seriously. Obviously, we can't prescribe, and we also can't tell you not to take your medication. So we can help you know what questions to talk to your doctor about and things. But I think what you're going to find as you really dig in, that we do support you in figuring out how to navigate this. What length of fast can you do with what medications? And then, like I said, eventually many people find that as they start coming off the medications, they can change what they're doing. Lisa or Heather, anybody want to add anything to that?
People come off of medications they're not even expected to come off of. So yeah. So of course we can't titrate you off of medication, but we can certainly. I tell you which health markers to track and to just show them to your doctor. Here, okay, can the medication be maybe cut in half or whatever? Be your own advocate, certainly.
Yeah. And not to give any very specific advice, but I love me a CGM. Oh, do I love me a CGM? And so if this is you, if this describes you, that is, a really good real-time feedback tool as to how what you're doing is affecting your blood glucose and can help keep you safe. Right? That's what, our type 1 diabetic friends use to keep them safe when titrating insulin. And that's what, our type 2 friends can use. And so, if you're kind of on the fence as to whether you want to try this, first of all, it's an incredibly effective tool. It's I believe why Dr. Fung started the whole fasting method, right? Is to help people with type 2 diabetes get off of those medicines and protect their kidneys from, end-stage renal disease. And so this whole program exists because of that particular disease process. And so, of course, we want people to get off of their medicines. We can't help you do that, but certainly working with your healthcare provider and having that data on the back of your arm can be a huge, just a huge, like a great tool. And it's a great weight loss tool too. Just saying.
With the Aura ring. And when I do alternate day fasting, that's when my Aura ring's the happiest. It's like, and I mean, every time I fast, my numbers, my resilience, and everything is better, and when I do the rolling fast, it's the happiest. And so it's like, wow, it's right there, the data,
Yeah.
all in it, all my health markers in the right direction, whether they be up or down.
I'm gonna hop in. I said I wasn't going to, but I just saw two really good ones, so I want to kind of combine them. Again, there people are asking about the coaching that's offered, and one of the questions is about the new um, um, accountability coaching and how is this different? It's different in that it's less it's not focused so much on the metabolic. It's not so focused on the people who have more need. It is more focused on people who need to check in, people who need to say, here's my plan. I'm struggling following through with my plan. What is my plan for next week? It's that more like, how do I put it? What are you going to do coaching versus if you're working with Heather, she's going to dig into some other behavioral things more or make some recommendations about your fasting plan even more so the accountability coaching is more a check-in time, a time for you to really get that boost and have someone to support you and someone that can say, you've said you had this plan the last 3 times, but you're struggling with it. Let's come up with another plan that seems more feasible. So it's really that more active kind of just getting you through your plans. And then the other question, how do the small group coaching sessions differ from the large community groups with a coach? The difference is a large group might have 50 people, 70 people, and a small group has a maximum of 4. And the way we do it is we talk with each one of you. It's not just a group discussion. We talk with each one of you during that time so that you get specific feedback. In a large group, we can't possibly know all of your background. So when you say, hey, Heather, is it time for me to move to the 48s? Because, with my medication, I'm not sure if that'll work. Heather can't go into that detail when there are 70 people waiting for the next question. But in small group coaching, that's exactly what Heather can do because you get individualized answers. Okay. All right. I'm looking at the clock here and I see that it is here at 7:52. Lisa, you get the award for the early person. It's 6:52 in your world, I think. So we are going to wrap up here, folks. There are so many things we could say. And what we're doing now is we're doing these Coaches Corner every month. This is a bonus one, but we will be back with another one in July. We look forward to seeing you. And we hope that you try it out. Come join. It's free for the first week. Come join the membership. See what it's like with this. Sorry, dog
It's
sitting.
live,
It
folks.
is live, folks. It is. So thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Heather. Um, and let's see. Someone asked how to join the Coaches Corner. You're in it. You're here. You are
Happening.
in it. All right. Heather or Lisa, anything else you want to say before we go?
Lisa, come on, you're
Oh,
first.
you go first.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, we're here for you in some way, shape, or manner, and tailor that to your needs too. And some people, I saw some questions about, do I get into coaching or do I do it the community, like you said? It's like, are you the type of person that, sticks your toe in first? Or are you the one that dives in? And that may be in a different spot wherever you are in your lifetime. So what's right for you right here in the present moment? So,
Absolutely. And and to that point, right, I have clients that don't spend any time in the community. They came to me one-on-one. They're like, "I want you and your time, and I don't want to hear from anybody else," right? It's very much personality type. It's very n equals one, like most things. And then I have clients that, want to do the small group because, they want that, kind of environment where they get to hear what everybody else is doing and everybody else is coaching, but they do not feel comfortable speaking up in a large group like this, because it's just too intimidating. So that tiny, environment where there are only a few people on the screen feels a little bit more comfortable and a little more safe. And once you're behind the scenes there, people open up a whole lot more when there are just a couple people in the room versus a, a big crowd of people that could be recorded. And so you get the real, like the real for real of what people are, kind of experiencing in small group coaching, and you feel even less alone. In the groups, sometimes people share, but then you get behind the scenes and you're like, oh gosh, they're really doing what I'm doing. And I would never say that in a big group, but this is a safe space, right? Because of course, what happens, in your coaching session is very private and everybody respects that. I have yet to see anyone that doesn't respect that. And so, yeah, that really is the difference, I think, is or you want to stand up in front of a stage and tell people what you're going through, or do you want a private small group or even a one-on-one to have that conversation?
And I will just add, when you go onto the website, if you're exploring coaching, these three faces are not the only three faces. Each time we do a coach's corner, we try to rotate some people in, but there are other options too. And so again, check us out. You'll go to Amy's meeting. You're like, oh my gosh, I feel like she could be my best friend. I totally get her. I want to work with her. So again, exploring the community is a great way to figure out what you want to do about coaching as well. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. So many great things that we get to talk about, and we will be back probably in a few weeks to do another Coach's Corner with you. All right, everyone. Take good care. Bye-bye.